Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Junk Food Zombie channel. I have a reloading safety video for you. I had recorded one, but it was way too long. So what I'm doing is I'm going to break it up into 3 smaller videos. The first one's going to cover general reloading safety, and then the other 2 will cover more specific things having to do with reloading safety. This is inspired partially by 504 Dirt Dart. If you guys don't know him and his channel, check him out. He's got a good channel and he's worth checking out. Dirt Dart, I know you recently picked up your Rock Chucker reloading kit, and you got yourself a good press there. I know you're doing rifle stuff, so a single-stage press is perfect for you. Kind of wanted to do this video a little bit for you and for everyone else out there who wants to do reloading and wants to learn about the safety. First things first, manual. Have one. Before you get all your stuff, unless you're getting a kit with a manual in it, if you're just going to buy things piecemeal, individually as you choose, get a manual first. Get 2 manuals or 3 manuals, but at least get a manual. They'll have a large section in the front, at least this Spear one does, that's all just about reloading and history and safety and all that. And then you have all your load data in here. This is an absolute necessity. You gotta have a reloading manual. So get yourself one of those. Get this first. Read it. It might help you make the decision as to what type of press you want. You might want a particular type of press and find out that it might not even be the best type of press for you. And, might change your mind. Okay, personal protection. You'll want to have a pair of safety glasses so you can look cool when you're reloading. No, really, you'll want a pair of clear glasses. I just happen to have the tinted one sitting right next to me. So have yourself a pair of safety glasses. That's important when you're reloading. Another thing is some gloves, latex or nitrile gloves. Those are good to have. You'll be loading a lot of times. These are plated bullets, so they're copper all around. But a lot of copper jacketed bullets won't have copper in the rear there on the base. They'll be just exposed lead on the base. Or in the case of cast bullets, you'll have just straight up lead. And you want to protect yourself from the lead. You want to keep your hands away from your face. Don't put your hands in your eyes and your mouth, especially when you're using lead bullets, lead projectiles. Something like this, it's not as critical, but still, it's a good practice. It's a good habit to get into, to keep your hands away from your face. You don't want powder residue in your eyes or in your mouth. Obviously, that's not a good thing. Okay, so those are things you're going to want to have. And if you want, you can wear one of those like little dust masks. If you like, you do get a little dust coming out of powder measures when you do your measuring of your powders. If you have a light on like this, you'll see that there's kind of like fine dust particles and particulates in the air. It's minimal, but if it's something that concerns you, go for it. Dust mask is it's a good thing to have. Okay, that's your basic personal protection. Next thing you're going to want is lighting. You're going to, wash your hands when you're done. That's another thing I want to add. Make sure when you're done reloading, wash your hands. Lighting. You want to have good lighting in the room, or decent lighting in the room is the case in here. I'm upgrading the lighting, but as of right now, this is what I've got in here. You'll want a light on your press. I've got 2. I've got this little one here from Inline Fabrication. It's a little light, that LED light that sits in the tool head. I did a video on that light. You can check that out. Inline Fabrication again. And I use that, and it lights up the press where you need to see what you're looking at. It helps you see your shells and how your charges are, which we will go over in more detail later. And for rifle cases or bottleneck cartridges, I have an auxiliary light. I have a second light that really lights this spot up so I can see into those cases, because bottleneck cases are harder to see. So I like to have good lighting. You really want to have good lighting. It helps you see your powder charges better. That's extremely important. Okay, excuse me guys, I'm checking a list. I got a list right here, so I'm gonna peer off to the side there once in a while. Okay, a general rule of reloading, no matter what you're doing, is no distractions. Be able to concentrate. Don't have music in here, movies, TV, anything like that. Don't have people in here distracting you that you're trying to have a conversation with. You really want to concentrate, because whether you are risking your safety here with primer detonations and such, or more importantly, on the range with rounds that you've loaded and you didn't pay attention and you loaded a squib load, or you overcharged something and double charged something, that can cause you to lose fingers. And if you're like me and you play guitar, you don't want to lose your fingers. So let's concentrate. Music, if it's like elevator music, maybe if it's quiet and in the background, but I'm really into music. So I'd have like Black Sabbath blasting in here, and I'd get way too into the music. So that's a no-go for me, but that's your call. You know, be as safe as you can. You want to get into habits and patterns. I tend to set up my press the same way every time. I count out my bullets. I count out my brass. I do my primers. I get my primers done. And then I have a pattern in my head. I know when I'm loading that I'm going to be doing. I check for my primer here. In this particular press, I won't have one, but that doesn't matter. Everybody's press is different. Brass. Look in the case for a charge. Put the bullet in after I've confirmed that the charge is good. And then I pull my lever. And then I repeat. And I say the same thing. Primer, brass, charge, bullet. Primer, brass, charge, bullet. And you get that pattern in your head. And it gets you into a rhythm. And that's how you kind of get moving, but it keeps you concentrating. You just want to make sure that you're checking your powder charges. That's extremely important, but we'll go over that again in more detail in another video. Write your data down. I have little log sheets here. It gives me all my information. It gives you the brass you're using, the type of powder, the weight of your powder charge, the bullets, the type of bullets you're using, the weight of the bullets, that sort of thing. You want to write that all down so you remember, and then I assign each lot that I do a lot number on here, and then that is labeled on my box. And so that when I grab a box, I see lot 17, I can just reference my paper and I know what charge is in there and all the information I need. So if that lot is a little weaker than I'd like it to be or a little stronger, I can make adjustments from there. Usually you'll do some test rounds first. You want to do a few rounds and test them and work up your load the way you want, and then you're good to go, and then you load your quantities. But always load in small quantities of a handful of rounds to begin with, because you don't know how your gun is going to act with that particular load. There's a lot of variables, and the reloading manual will go into that way better. It's too much detail. So you'll write all your data down. That's a good thing to have. Another thing I like to do is weigh my bullets. I'll grab a couple bullets. I know these are 180 grain, but when I get them, I don't want to take for granted that they're 180 grain. If you have bullets and you think they're 165 grains, and they turn out to be 180 grains, then you're going to have a much higher pressure in the case than you're supposed to have, because you'll have more powder for a lighter bullet, and it'll create more pressure with a heavier bullet. So just grab a few rounds, grab 3 or 4 of them, weigh them at the weight they're supposed to be, and check them, and make sure that they're the proper weight, and you didn't get a batch of bullets that was the wrong weight, because that can affect your safety as well. Okay, that's basically everything you need to do to set up. As far as afterwards, when you're done loading everything, just grab the finished rounds. I have one here. Check your primers. I give a quick once-over of the case as I'm putting them in the box as I grab them, and I just spin them real quick, make sure there's no splits that I missed before. I didn't crack anything in the press. I didn't mash anything by mistake and split a case mouth or something. Make sure you've got your primer in there, a new primer. You'll want to make sure you give it a quick once-over. Another thing I like to do is you want to measure them. You'll take your micrometer or calipers, however you want to call them. I'll measure them to make sure that they match the measurement that I want, which is in the book. You have a guideline in the book of roughly how long you want them to be. You don't want them to be too short, because if they're too short, then you're decreasing the space inside the case, and that's increasing pressures. So you want to make sure that they're the proper length. And you've got a few thousandths of an inch to play with here and there, but use that book as a good guideline. What I do is I'll measure them, and then to test the crimp, I'll take the round and I'll put it nose down and give it 3 or 4 or 5 whacks. Don't beat the snot out of it. Give it a good sharp hit. Basically, that's to simulate the round hitting a feed ramp when it's being loaded. You want to make sure that the rounds that the crimp is tight enough that they're not getting pushed back into the case, increasing your pressures. On a revolver, it's the exact opposite. Bullets will be pulled out forward from the recoil, and while that won't increase pressures in the case, what it can do is can jam up the cylinder. If the bullets pull forward and they stick out the end of the cylinder, it'll jam up the cylinder, and that's obviously a nightmare. So that's what I like to do. Measure them, give them a few taps, measure them again, and do that to the first few, and that's how you know your crimp is set okay. If they're moving back, you'll know you need to tighten your crimp up a bit. Okay, other than that, that's pistol. The one thing I like to do with rifle rounds, now this depends on your charge, the powder you're using. Rifles, some use ball powder, some use stick powder. So you can't really do this with pistol powders because they're real light and flaky, and rifles, like the stuff I use, tends to be stick powder. They're harder, and if you shake them, you can hear them. Where's my microphone? It's down this end, isn't it? Yeah. Let me see if you can hear this. You may or may not be able to hear that. When I charge my rifle cases, say whatever it is, I'm just using an arbitrary number here, say 20 grains. It completely depends on your powder. It could be 24 grains or 18 grains. You know, check your loading manual. I can hear it, and I can actually feel the weight of the charge in there. Now, this might sound a little crazy, but it works. I actually caught a round once something had happened. My powder measure had loosened, and my this linkage here popped out of the powder bar, and it only charged it about 1/4 to 1/3 of what it should have been. And every time I'm done with my rifle rounds, I pick them out, I hold my box, my ammo box, and I take my rifle round, and I give it a quick little shake. A gentle shake. You don't want to break up the powder because that can change the burn rate, so you just want to give it a quick shake, drop it in the box. And one day I was doing that, and I picked one up, and I was like, that light, that feels light. You can actually, if there's a significant difference, you'll notice that the charge is lighter. Now, there's a couple cases where that won't work. If you have a compressed load where the powder goes all the way up to where the bullet is, when the bullet goes in, it compresses down onto the powder, and there's no room for it to shake, you won't be able to hear that or feel it shaking. So if you have a compressed load, that's not going to do you any good. But if you have a load where there's space in the case, you'll know if you have forgotten the powder charge because you won't hear anything. Like I said, if you have a compressed charge, that won't work. So, you know, use your brain on that and use common sense. But it has saved me from having a squib load because there was probably like 4 grains of powder in that charge. Like I said, it was a malfunction here. And keep an eye on that when you're working. Keep an eye on everything in general. Just concentrate. You know, like I said, it's common sense. I just want to give you guys a few pointers, and we'll get into more detail involving the brass and the bullets and the powder charges and all that in the next 2 videos. So that's your basic stuff, 504 Dirt Dart. I hope that helped you out. Good luck on your reloading endeavors. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have in store for us, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks. Bye. All right.